In this video, I'll be modeling a pencil box with a lid on it with the intent to cut the parts out on one of our laser machines. So to begin, I'll open up a new design tab and I'll navigate to, I've created an engineering design 1 folder. I'll put it in my folder. I will save it. So box. And I will create some parameters to use in the design. So I went to modify. I will select this plus tab for parameters. I'm going to use a T parameter for thickness. And the plywood we'll be using is 0.2. Put a note in here for thickness. And I will use the parameters for length, height, and depth. So if I try and use L for length, it's already used as a preset parameter for line. I'm going to make the box about 7 inches in length. So it won't let me use L because it's already a functioning parameter. W for width. We'll make it, say, 3 inches for now. And H for height. Make it about 2 inches tall. We'll go OK. I can minimize this. Now I will start sketching. I'm going to do the front sketch first. I can select the rectangle tool. I'll start from the origin, drag it up. This is going to be I'll do D on the computer or the keyboard. This will be the length as I'm looking at it in the front view. And from the side, this will be the height, H. So from the front, I'm going to want to add some pockets here for the bottom. So I'll do R on the keyboard for rectangle. Draw a rectangle. I'm going to do L on the keyboard for a line, and I'm going to draw a center line. And it snaps to the midpoint. If it doesn't snap to the midpoint, you can, let's see, you can realign it to the midpoint by this midpoint constraint tab. Select the point and the line, and it'll go to the midpoint. Now I'm going to make this line a construction line by selecting it and pressing X on the keyboard, or I can select the construction element over here in the sketch palette. So now I need to define this rectangle that will be our slot cutout. And I'm going to make it our thickness dimension, which is T, material thickness. I'm going to give it a dimension of 1 inch. It looks a bit far, so I'll double click on it, change that to 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to add in a little cutout here for the foot and then dimension off of that. So L on the keyboard for line. And I will just draw 3 lines. I want this to be I'll give it half T, so 0.5 times the thickness. And D on the keyboard for dimension. I'll give this a 45-degree angle. I'll space this out about 1/2 inch. I'll do the same over here. So I can select this value, this D11 value over here. So that later on, I only have to change one value if I want to modify this, and it will automatically update. I'm not going to change the degrees, so I'll just put in 45 degrees. So now I want to give it a little bit of strength, I want to be the thickness of the material away. So we'll give it a value of T, dimensioned. The length of this, 2 inches, looks fine. And now it's fully defined. It's black. That means it can't move at all. If I grab it and try and drag it, it won't move. I'm going to mirror this over. So I can come up to create, use the mirror tool. I'll select the elements to be mirrored. Select the mirror line. Okay. And that looks pretty good for the front sketch. Now we'll do the side sketch. So I'll select sketch. We'll do the side plane. R on the keyboard for rectangle. I'll come back to the origin point, drag it up. Now I can use the parameters that we've defined, or I can attach to the front sketch. And I like to attach to the front sketch. So I'm going to use a coincident constraint. I'm going to select this upper point and then the point of the front sketch. That locks it in place. Now I just need a dimension for the width of the box. All right. So if I select over here on the left face, I can zoom into this face. So now I'll do a rectangle here for the base slot, and I'll also give it some feet. So line on the keyboard, L on the keyboard, I mean. Come over here. Same dimensioning process. I'll define the angles. So this has, it snapped to a constraint, so I've over-constrained, and it puts the angle in parentheses, which means it doesn't actually do anything. It's just showing me that that's what the angle is. I can leave it there, or I can delete it. And so it automatically made these two lines perpendicular to each other. So that's why we just defined the one angle. We'll give this the same value of 0.5 T. If you ever want to not have it automatically constrained, if you hold Control, it will drop the line without a constraint. Anyways, we'll continue dimensioning. We'll go the same here, 0.5, a little bit smaller. Then the front side, we'll select that parameter. And now, there's a couple ways to do this. I can dimension, or I can pull a line from here and attach it. But this dimension really is not going to change much, so I'm going to go ahead and give it the value of T. And as we update material thickness, it will update as well. We'll give this a dimension of 2 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and draw a center line. So I'll snap to the center. and to the center. And I'll need to make this line, make sure that it's perpendicular or vertical. So I'll select the vertical constraint. And that should put this line directly in the center, or this rectangle directly in the center. I'll do X on the keyboard to make that a construction line. And it looks like we still need to define the material thickness. So I'm going to add in some little tabs on the side here. I'll do R on the keyboard for rectangle. And I think 2 of them looks pretty good. These will be the depth of the material, so the value of T. And I can use the equal constraint to make these components equal. I could have, since this is using T as well, I could have made these equal to this value. But it's already, excuse me, but it's already defined. So now I want to space these out evenly. So I'll use construction lines. 3 of them. We'll make these constructions by giving X on the keyboard. And I want all 3 of these to be equal. So if I hold down Control and select them, and I use the equal tab, it makes them equal. But these are not defined yet, so I need to give the tabs a value. I'm going to make the tabs true squares, so I'll make, well, I'll give it a value of T, and I may want to go back and change that later. So I won't make it use an equal constraint to the side value here. Let's see if these, so that one needs to be, I need to use the equal constraint to make those 2 equal. And now I need to use the coincident constraint to attach that point to the line. And I need to ensure that it's vertical. It did not make it vertical because I'll do Control Z, drag this over, and I'll try the vertical constraint again. There it goes. Okay, so now I want to mirror this over. I'll go back to Create, Mirror, select the elements that I want to mirror, select the line to mirror about, and these will be my little assembly tabs. The last thing on the sketch that I want to do is create the hinge for the lid. So I'll use R on the keyboard for rectangle, and I will draw a square that is equal to our thickness. And go ahead and make these equal. There it goes. And I will draw a circle. So C on the keyboard. And I want to use this 2-point circle tool. So it's blue, it's not defined. Sometimes, so it looks like I need to attach it to one of these points. So I'll use the coincident constraint. And I kind of locked the computer up. So it was already, the 2-point constraint attached it to these 2 points, and then I just needed to attach it, give it one more defining point. That will be our pivot point. I'm going to use the offset tool. It's O on the keyboard. And I want to offset it the thickness of the material. So T, hit OK. Then I notice here that that's going to look kind of funky, so I'm going to add a line that's tangent to the circle, connect the line. It looks like it's blue, so it's not yet defined. I'll make it horizontal, and I will add one up here as well. Make it vertical. So that will be, from the side profile, our pivot point. I can stop this sketch. And now I'll do the top lid and the bottom portion sketch. So I'll select Create Sketch. I'm going to put it on the bottom plane. R on the keyboard for rectangle. And I want our top, our top needs to go to this point. So I want to extrapolate this line. If I select the point, then P on the keyboard, it will project that line down. And now I can snap to that line. I can attach this one here. So I'll use the coincident constraint. Oops. Try that again. Make that coincident, and I want to attach, make this point coincident with that front sketch. So now that is fully defined. Now the bottom will end right here. So I'm going to use the line tool to attach. And we're going to need to have a cutout in here for the top. So what we'll need is a line here and here. And this will be a little bit deeper than our material thickness. So D on the keyboard to define it. And I'm going to give it a 64th of an inch beyond the material. So it'll be T plus 0.015. And the same goes for this dimension here. It'll be dimension of 0.015. That'll give me just enough clearance for the lid to move and operate. This will make a little more sense when we go to extrude. I'm going to give myself a center point line to mirror about. Make it a construction, X on the keyboard. Come up to mirror. Select my two elements to mirror. So I have it on that side. Okay. I'm also going to give the lid a little bit of like a handle right here. So I will use L on the keyboard, the line tool. I will extend this construction line, L on the keyboard, make that construction using X. I use the midpoint constraint, select the point, then the line, and start to dimension out 45 degrees. And like earlier, I can use the perpendicular constraint. That will define that end, and we'll give it a depth. I'll use that same T value. And this can be 2 inches. Don't make it too big. So this section's not looking quite right, and I'm gonna come back later and update it as I can visualize it a little bit better. Which is pretty easy to do in Fusion. So we have our base sketches here. The next thing we'll do is extrude and combine and kind of fine tune. So that will conclude this video.